As a Canadian, I know firsthand what it's like to learn that what you believed about your country is not true. I grew up being told repeatedly, I am so lucky to be Canadian. There is no better country in this world than Canada. And all of that indoctrination went up in a poof when I learned in 2020 the truth. News reports came out that they had found mass unmarked graves of Indigenous children outside of former residential schools. Residential schools were set up by the Canadian government in partnership with the churches to reprogram Indigenous children, steal them from their homes by force, put them in these institutions, and many of them died. And they were just buried in mass graves. Their families were never even notified that their children were dead. They had to live the rest of their lives not knowing what had happened to their child. And that is next level evil. We didn't learn about this in school. This all just came out to the general public a few years ago. And it's not ancient history. I was in elementary school in the 90s, and the final residential school to closed in the 90s. When you learn a hard truth about your country, you can do one of two things. You can dig in and refuse to believe the facts that are being presented to you and maintain that blind faith to a country because you were told to, or you can use your critical thought and challenge all of your beliefs. I chose the latter because I was so horrified, as were many Canadians, and I do think that realization shook us to the core. And I do think that there's a lot of people who support Israel right now who are grappling with this same thing. For my generation, I think the plan was just don't say anything, don't talk about it, let's pretend it didn't happen, don't let these kids know anything about any of this, and we'll just sweep it under the rug. Generations before me, they knew more than we do, actually. And I'll share a story now about a time I was in a networking group a couple of years ago, like right around the time that these news reports were coming out. I was talking to this older man, and I just brought up the news and said, I just feel so horrible. Like, I'm horrified, and I need to figure out what I need to do. Like, I feel so guilty. Like, how could this have happened? And he said to me, well, don't you feel guilty? Like, you didn't do anything. And besides, they were savages. If we didn't kill them, they were going to kill each other anyway. That's the belief that allowed what happened to the Indigenous people to happen. It's the same dehumanizing language we are seeing being used actively against Palestinians right now. I can very easily draw those parallels, and I would hope that everyone can see that. Whether they want to believe it or not, it's happening, and it's becoming so that you can't deny it anymore. If your loyalty is so blindly to a country that you are willing to turn away and deny the mass killings of a population of people, you have forfeited your humanity. They say it's about Hamas, but they're shooting women and children. They're posting their flags on the land, on the beach. They want that land because they want to build stuff on it, but there's a lot of oil and gas under that land. It's the same story all over again. And they're using Hamas as the boogeyman to make the whole world support what they're doing. But we need to see through that so that we stop these atrocities from happening, not just in Palestine, but all over the world. And we need to stay awake. We've been awakened to the reality of this, and we need to keep going. Free Palestine.